Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so I've been waiting for this one for a long time. We have Dr. Sheila Robinson on the line. She's a publisher and also CEO over at Diversity Women Media, and I'm proud to announce she'll be an author in our upcoming book that we've been putting together for about the last year, maybe year and a half, with Women Connect for Good and Dr. Nancy O'Reilly. So first off, Sheila, I just want to say welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure and honor to be here with you. I am just very, very excited about the Women Helping Women book with Dr. Nancy. Can't wait till it comes out. Yeah. And I appreciate you having me on as a guest today.
Well, great to have a fellow member of the media in the house as well. So we're definitely going to talk about Diversified Women Media, your vision, where you've been, where you're at, where you're going with the company, of course, and really developing talent to create equitable opportunities for women. I mean, we got a lot to talk about here today, but we'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So Sheila, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Okay. Sheila, what mission matters to you?
Well, I would say the mission that matters to me is how Diversity Women Media is committed to elevating women of all races, cultures, and backgrounds to new heights of leadership. And we do this by supporting their career development. We really aim to break down some of those barriers that women face in the workplace. We challenge stereotypes, and we create more opportunities for women to thrive professionally, especially helping them navigate through some of the barriers and giving them ideas, solutions, and resources to soar.
Yeah, it's great. Love having mission-based individuals on here to share why they do what they do. And so kind of going back in time here, like how did you know that you would be specifically creating a platform to boost the stories and create opportunities for women? I mean, a lot of different routes you could have went in terms of creating media and creating content and opportunities. Like, why this one? Like, when were you drawn to this?
Well, Adam, I would have never in a million years thought that I would end up doing this. I think in college, I majored in political science, thinking I was going to be a lawyer, pre-law.
Same here, by the way. I know you don't know that. Same here. I thought I was going to be a lawyer too. Thankfully, we didn't. Oh, no offense to the lawyers out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, you must love what you do. You must love what you do. And I remember having an internship doing one summer in a law firm. And I was like, this is not it, not for me. And still not knowing what I wanted to do. But my mother was a teacher and my father worked in manufacturing, and he made more money than my mother as a teacher. And so I always felt like I wanted to work in corporate. I didn't know what role I wanted. I think I wanted to be a supervisor, a manager, but I was drawn to wanting to be a leader in corporate America. And right after college, I ended up with two great, amazing careers in corporate America, but was displaced from both the organizations. And the organization, one was tobacco, because I'm from North Carolina, if you can't tell. And the other one was textiles, both from North Carolina. I worked for a global chemical giant that made Coolmax in your socks, Lycra in your hosiery, and in your clothing. And what happened, these industries declined for various reasons. And after being laid off and displaced from the second wonderful corporate career where I was making tons of money, and I love my hours, I love just the environment, I started reading business publications to try to understand more about business and to try to identify industries that were thriving, because I did not want to walk into another industry that was declining. And I noticed that there were not any publications for women in business. I wanted to know what were the best industries to get in, what were the best opportunities for women. And I saw nothing. And still, it just hit me because I was still working at this organization, the last organization that I was displaced from, but we knew it was coming. And I was like, I should start a magazine for women. You know how you think stuff.
Hold on, where do you remember where, like, was that one of those things that just popped in your head, or was it a
Yes.
progression? Where were you at? Do you remember? I'm
I
just
was
curious.
sitting at my desk. I could tell you the office I was in right now is I was flipping through these business magazines, and I was like, I'm gonna start a magazine for women. And you know, I
Wow.
was actually on my
I asked that because that's from God. That's like divine
Yes.
inspiration. When you
And
get that flash, that's different.
And
That's
I
different.
literally, because I worked in marketing, I had, you know, software to do all of these fun things.
Mhm.
I actually designed a magazine cover right there on mine. I had a woman, she was
Get
sharp,
out.
she had on a nice skirt. And the first cover line was how to ask my boss for a raise. And it was like, I'm not, you know, I'm doing things my way. It was all those, literally, that happened. And fast forward after that, it was probably a year or longer before I actually went for it, because I started interviewing for jobs. You know, I had my package, I had my I had my boss to actually refer me positions with other corporations,
Wow.
and I could not get a job. The last interview I had, no kidding, was with I had 3 vice presidents, a CHRO,
Mm.
and the director of HR. They all loved me, and I just knew I was going to become a vice president of marketing for this phenomenal company. And they said, you have one more interview with the CEO. I walked in, the CEO, he's young, he's dynamic, he's dressed sharp, and I was like, oh, I got this, because he's forward thinking.
Yeah.
He's about, you know, he's about the work. He's about recognizing talent that can help take his organization to new heights. And he told me that I wasn't the right fit for his organization because he was afraid with he said, you have all the branding and marketing that we could ever need, but he was afraid that I didn't have enough managerial experience, and about 30 men would have had to report to me.
Wow.
And it was immediately after that day, I went home and I started exploring my idea, that vision to start my own publication.
Wow. What was your, like, whenever an entrepreneur has has an idea and you're like, this is a year later, so this thing was like nagging at you. It's almost like you were, you know, I won't say forced, but kind of like the market's like pushing you to do this idea. How did you know, or did you know, like, this was going to be the one? Like, all of a sudden, like, was it like, how did you know?
It was really weird because I needed a job. I needed money. And
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking about this idea. And I was having coffee with one of my friends, and I was like, I've hired coaches. I've had great references. You know, all of my stuff is stellar. And I'm baffled. I was beat down. I don't know how celebrities do it, to continue to go out and audition for these roles. And the rejection after rejection had started beating me down. And she said, I think you should explore that idea you had to start that magazine. She said it was a really great idea. And I thought, I don't have any money to start a magazine. Like, I need a job. And she said, I didn't tell you to start it. I told you to explore it.
Wow.
And at that time, I was so beat down that I needed something creative and exciting and something and so I just said, okay, I'm going to take a month or 2 off, maybe 2 or 3 months, and I'm going to go ahead on and explore this vision. And I hired a graphic designer and created a dummy magazine. And I went out, and this was roughly almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
In the
So that's not easy, just to put us in context in terms of technology. Like, that's like, that took some thinking. Like, that's not easy back then.
And the first week that I started showing it to people to ask them what they invest in it, the first publication was called Career Network, because that's what I was about. You know, we have got to figure out how you know, what our career is going to be like.
Yeah.
And I had received $16,000 in a week, and people saying, I will invest in you if you bring this magazine to print. Well, at that time, I was like, I don't even have a magazine. I'm just thinking about it. And in 1 week, I have $16,000 in commitment. And it was a snowball effect after that.
Wow, that's I mean, sometimes when you think about like you being pushed towards a destiny and like pushed towards a industry, whether you thought it was going to happen or not, that's amazing. So now I want to continue this narrative. So now you're thinking about this. Some part of this reminds me of the first book that we launched here at Mission Matters. So, which is one of the things we're going to be working on together for the book, as we mentioned. But I remember thinking about like some of the people in the beginning that were like, oh no, we want to be in that book, or we'll invest, or we'll participate. And I'm like, but I don't even know how to do a book. All I had, just so you know, was a deck.
Right.
I had a deck and an idea. I had done a book myself prior, but we're talking going way back to the beginning in terms of anthologies or putting out anything like this. All I had was a deck that basically said, hey, we're going to get together a group of entrepreneurs. We're all going to write a chapter. We're going to put out the book. That's all I had, a deck. And it was like not a good one. And that was it. And then the people, it was almost like by them committing, that gave me the like the belief in, okay, let's do this. There's some people that I'm going to be helping by doing this. So I know where I went next, and it was a painful process of learning how to publish a book. Where did you go next?
Well, I had learned so much from my previous role. One of my bosses told me always differentiate yourself from anything else in the market. Another boss told me
you had actual marketing knowledge. I had nothing. I was a financial advisor, just for context. I knew nothing about marketing. Go ahead.
Well, I knew nothing about money and sales. So
okay.
There we go. We should have matched up.
There you go.
Yeah, but I knew marketing, and I knew consumer purchasing behavior. I had sat on the side where people had come to me to ask me because I handle advertising in my corporation. I handle advertising, I handle events. So I knew that if I could create an offering that and find out who's buying what I'm selling, then I would be onto something. But it didn't happen that easily. First thing I did, and this is what I share with anyone, whether you're exploring a new role in your job or starting your own business or whatever, to get out and research, join networks. I joined a network called Visions, where entrepreneurs would come, and I just stood up and said, hey, I'm trying to start a magazine and I'm looking for a writer. Hey, I'm trying to start a magazine and I'm looking for somebody to tell me this. I actually went looking at magazines because somebody had told me this. Find something that you want your product to look like. That, and then and emulate it, or reach out to that team and ask them, can they help you? And I knew that I couldn't help I can go to anyone that I was competing with, but I found this natural health magazine, and I ended up meeting the young lady that owned the magazine, and they didn't know how to do events. I knew how to do events, and I didn't know how to do publishing. So they trained me for a while. And then I knew that I just networking, going to events and talking to people who had budgets for this. Like I used to go to Bennett College for Women. I used to go to all of their events, and they would have all these corporations coming in, and I would talk to them and tell them what I was doing. And they said, well, you need to be national for me to invest in you. And so I went out looking for I joined Women in Periodical Publishing out of San Francisco, California. I had never been there before, but I joined this networking group to help me develop and educate and teach me about publishing. And I ended up winning a scholarship to Stanford University's publishing program. At that time, it was held during the summer. And it was the #1 publishing certification you can get in the world.
Amazing.
And at that time, everything blossomed. I mean, the sky opened. I met Cindy Levy, the editor-in-chief of Glamour, Keith Scales, who had started Vibe magazine. He worked with so many amazing people. I met editors and writers from all kinds of magazines, and created that network. And to this day, I was introduced to my editorial team that are still based in San Francisco, that have been with me for practically 18 years.
That's an amazing story. And where did the so I got the original magazine. When the shift? Like when did the banner shift? Like when did everything shift to the current focus? Like how
Yeah.
did that take place?
Well, that took place like really year 3, because year 1 I was developing, started my LLC.
Yep.
Year 2, I had this regional magazine in Borders and Barnes and Nobles. I wasn't making any money,
Yeah.
and the advertising dollars I was getting was breaking even, but it was enough to let me
That's an
know.
accomplishment in media. Hold on. That's
Yeah,
that's a big
yeah. I
accomplishment.
was breaking even,
It's amazing.
and then when I was told, look, you got to become national. So around year 3, I changed my brand to a national brand because the regional pub would not have made it nationally.
Yeah.
And so year 3, the name changed, and it just took off. I would say the first 10 years of the business, I really didn't have large profits and could barely pay myself. But, and they say when you start a business in about the 3 to 4 year period, you could expect not to make money until 3 or 4 years. And so if you say the 2 years as a regional, and then give myself 2 plus, I would say 8 in 10 years, it was like my income, it blew up.
Yeah.
It blew up. So it was
We have so many similarities on the timeline. So our first brand was Money Matters Top Tips. And around that year 3, year 4, like our aim was that it was too niche, and that we would never be a global brand with that. Like that's too niche. So we were thinking like, what's going to be the global like footprint? Just in terms, and so that's where we moved from Money Matters Top Tips, which was super niche, to Mission Matters, which actually matched our content more actually. So it was more aligned with both mine and the other co-founder, Chirag Cigar, our vision ultimately. But it did take that first 3 to 4 years to really like get that messaging down. I feel like it's kind of, unless you, I mean, maybe if you're from the media space and all that, but I was coming from a different space. Maybe you have it all right in the first place, but I don't think I could have sat in a room and brainstormed Mission Matters, or even the potential of that vision long-term to be able to help people and create that platform for others to tell their story. So I love your story because it parallels and it's just so interesting. Even the time period just parallels so much. So I'm like, it's amazing. It's a great story.
Well, I love Mission Matters too.
So how did, and maybe at what point did it, I know you mentioned doing events, you knew how to do that early on as well. When did that take place for it to be like this multi-dimensional platform? And I don't know, maybe it was always there, but now, okay, so we're up to the point to where the timeline is you have a magazine, now you have a national magazine, but what I know you for as well is the events, the platform, the community, like all those things. Where did that part of the vision come in?
Well, we're missing a very important time period that took place, and I know that you're going to remember it coming from the finance industry.
2008? What?
2008. Okay.
The level setter of who's the last woman or standing or man or whatever.
Yeah.
Person,
so when I started the business, I started out doing what other platforms do. They survive on advertising. They survive on advertising. They survive on how many people get your publication. And so the first 3 years I did that. It was horrendous. It was easy to get in Barnes and Nobles and Borders bookstores, but the distribution was not large enough for me to justify the advertising spend. And so then someone else told me, well, you do mailers to everyone's house. And at one time I did that, and I had a brick and mortar office, and we started getting calls, do not send this magazine to my house. I didn't ask for this. And so it was at that time where I said, I'm never going to provide anyone anything unless they ask for it. So I learned early on that the traditional way of periodical publishing was not going to work for me. And then 2008 hit, and everybody was telling me, you need to go digital. Sheila, print is dead. That was it. I remember watching people walk out. I was in an entrepreneur building where small businesses were. I still have the vision of people walking out with computers and everybody shutting down their offices and everything. And I'll never forget that I was like, at that time, I hated digital. And I knew that I was not going to become a digital publication. I was in love with print and the pages and the smell of the paper and the pictures jumping off the magazine pages. That was my passion and my love.
Yeah.
And I knew that what I was going to do is I was going to close it down. I too was going to be walking out with my computer. I was going to close it down. And I was sharing with the receptionist, and a young lady walked by me, and I'll never forget. I don't know who she was, but she heard me. And she said, "You can't shut Diversity Women down. What about us?" And we turned around, and she said, "Finally, a publication that does not tell me what color lipstick that I have to wear. One that inspires me and motivates me about my career." She said, "This publication is not about you. It's about us." Dang. She was a little sassy something as I got to know her.
That hits.
It hit a spot. Yeah. Not to mention, unfortunately, I didn't think I heard her. I still wasn't listening because mommy got to pay bills. But I did hear her. So, and then at the same time, unfortunately, I was going through a divorce. I had found out the exact same time that my marriage was ending. And so, for some reason, I did not end the business. After I got situated in my new place of separation, I remembered my years at DuPont. Oh, one other quick thing. I had gone to an event. All of this is the same period.
Yeah.
And to hear Mark Cuban speak in Atlanta, Georgia.
Whoa.
Okay. And it was hundreds of people there. And I knew I was not going to get near this man, but I somehow was walking where I knew he was walking, and I was looking for the opportunity. And he got on the elevator, and I jumped on the elevator with him. And I said, "Mr. Cuban, I just have a very quick question for you." I was like, "I have a magazine that it's amazing. I know it is." And I said that everybody's telling me print is dead, and they're telling me I should go digital. What do you think? I'll never forget his words. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Whoa. I don't think print is dead." He said, "Well, that is what you should focus on. You should focus on what you think, what you believe, and you figure out a strategy to make it happen." And
Dang.
So
come on, give him Mark. You better watch saying this out loud. That shark might ask for a check. No, I'm just like,
shark, come get me, Mark. I'm telling
amazing.
You, if he would have said to me, I don't even know if he would have said to me, "Young lady, you need to find another business." I'm not even sure I would still be here.
Wow.
But he said to
me,
words
matter.
You need to figure out a way to make what you believe in work. And then the other young lady telling me, "This is not about you. This is about me." Man. And I feel that my work is purpose driven. Yeah. You know, because I used to say, why couldn't I have invented Twitter? You know, why did I have to think of one of the hardest businesses to run that, you know, it didn't make me a multimillionaire. Okay. Yeah. But it's purpose driven, because guess what? I know this for a fact. My work has made many women millionaires. And I know women that because of my work, they have created businesses and sold for millions. Because of my work, they have advanced in their career and they are making millions. So purpose driven. And I look around, and year 19, I've been blessed with everything I ever dreamed of. Yeah. I wish I could retire, but I can't. Yeah. So my work is purpose driven, and it's not time for me to hang it up yet.
I love it. And I think about going kind of a level deeper to, so now originally, obviously it was 2008, which crushed, I mean, many people, you got this personal consulting from Mark Cuban in the elevator. That's amazing. It's an amazing story. And so now where do you go from here? Like, how do you start rethinking or reimagining just your business and how you're going to make it happen? And I asked this, by the way, because, a lot of people watching, or post-pandemic, people are pivoting, adjusting, doing other things. Like where do you go from there?
Well, what did Mark Cuban tell me? He said, you need to figure out a strategy
Yeah.
to do what you believe in. And I remembered, and by now I'm in my new place. I'm
Yep.
single again. I'm in my new place. And I took those little sticky yellow, what do you call them?
Yeah, yellow sticky notes. Yep.
When you walked into that apartment, it was yellow sticky notes everywhere. I created an entire different business model. I knew I was never going back to that old advertising business model, smelling out, saying I got a 500,000 distribution.
Yeah.
I decided to use the business model that I had when I worked in corporate America, where I could offer someone a bundled package. They can sponsor an event and get registrations. They can sponsor an event and get an ad in a magazine. They can, I had at that time, I have 2 masters and a doctorate of education, but at that time I've always done leadership training. They could get leadership training, and I've written 3 books since then. So I just started bundling packages and going to areas that invested in talent management, because all corporations have a talent management department, a chief human resource office, or even a diversity officer office, where they want to invest in programs to help their organization, the talent in their organizations advance. And so that was the beauty. That was the new strategy that I came up with to save my business in 2008. And it just took off.
Wow. That's interesting, because that's not too far ago from thinking about like making the decision of digital, not all the other components there, but also it's like maybe even folding up shop. Like, to go from there to reimagining, to rethinking, and then to creating something sustainable. Like, that's why I love doing this. It's like hearing these entrepreneur stories got me fired up. I'm like, what other problems can we solve, and other things can we do? Like, it makes it super interesting. But then this is also how things progress. So if you think about even that first, when you were thinking about not doing it, all of the magazines, and that was how many years roughly ago was that? Just roughly. Like when we're talking 2008. I'm sorry, that's when it was. 2008. So we're talking about, well over a decade ago. And so how many?
2010. I was moving.
Yeah. So you helped another generation already with your work. And that's something to be said. You already have a whole nother generation being inspired by your work. What keeps you going? Like, what keeps you motivated in this? Because media is hard, publishing's hard. People ask me sometimes, like, how do they advise that I get into the industry? I say, I don't advise it. Go get a job. Go do something else. This is hard. So that's what I normally say. That's not your advice. That's mine, by the way. I'm not putting those words into you or projecting onto you. But like, what keeps you going when things get tough?
Yeah. And things got tough many, many times.
Yeah.
And it was, I can remember one time I was like, you know what, I am not going to be able to have a livelihood off of this. This is working. People are loving what I'm doing, but this breaking even every year is just not going to work. I need to make some money. And it was one day, I was certain I was going to hang it up, and my phone rang, and it was the famous poet and actress, Dr. Maya Angelou.
Oh, come on. What are your stories? Who do you attract in your life? That energy you got. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Her office, I kid you not, saying that because one of her former students was one of my customers, and he was trying to get her on the cover of my publication. And it was her office saying that she had agreed to be on the cover
Yeah.
And that she was inviting me to her home, which I actually went to, had coffee and drank out of her china. And so, Adam, at that time, I was like, okay, I might shut this business down, but it's going to have to be after this cover. Okay.
You're right. It is.
And then she told me that she was going to send copies of the magazine to Oprah Winfrey, which, if everybody know, Dr. Maya Angelou was the godmother or play mom or whatever of Oprah Winfrey. They were very close. And I thought for sure my business is really, really going to take off. Well, again, that form of rejection, it felt like I never heard from Oprah's office. But I said, well, at least she knows I exist. At least Oprah
I'm okay with that. I agree.
I'm, that's been almost 12, 15 years ago, and never heard anything. And I literally almost thought about closing my business because I thought if she didn't see any value in the work, then I was never going to make money off of it. And something, I guess my faith, and I was like, what value is it to Oprah to work with you? You're not bringing her anything. And what I learned in business, that even when you're talking to your customers, it has to be a win-win.
For sure.
And unless you are bringing something to her that is going to be a benefit to her, then that doesn't fit. And I stopped thinking that I needed someone else to make my business. And I started focusing on working with the people that were finding value in the work that I was doing. And it became so rewarding to hear about, customers calling me saying they've already given someone a promotion as a result coming to one of my leadership conferences.
Wow.
Yeah, someone else telling me that they were featured on the cover of my magazine and they're now in a C-suite position at a big time corporation. And, doing the work became so rewarding. And it's a funny thing that when I realized what my mission really was and what I was really selling, I started making money. I realized I wasn't selling magazines. I was selling purpose. I was selling leadership. I was selling solutions. I was helping organizations solve talent development programs. And when I started focusing on, and my platform just happened to be events and publications. And when I started focusing on the value that my customers were receiving, that is when I started making money.
Man, there's so much in that and what you just said. And I want to, where I want to take this next is I do want to talk a little bit about the conferences and the programming, just kind of the things you work on, because I feel like we got a lot into the magazine side of it. I think we get it, but let's go into the conferences and the events, because who you're bringing together and what you're bringing together, I mean, it's pretty remarkable.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adam. I love people. Somebody once told me, they said, you're fascinated meeting people. I love meeting people. I love learning
and you attract interesting people to you too. Like, you just gave 2 names, but I know you got stories for days, but go ahead.
I'm fascinated with meeting people of all races, cultures, and backgrounds, and men too. We love our men. We can't do this work without you. We wouldn't be here without you. So we know you, we love you. And I have a section in a magazine called Male Allies. And sometimes I have a panel, our men at work panel that are working to support us. So when you come to my conferences, there is a science behind learning. And that's what I have learned. There is a science behind learning. And so you could put someone in an environment and you can give them all the education in the world, and they'll walk out and leave and forget what they just heard if the environment wasn't right. And so I made sure that I create and develop programs and events where transformation will take place. And I'll tell my team, the people that come cannot leave the same way they came.
Wow.
And that's my secret sauce, is creating programming to make sure that transformation takes place. And when they go back to their companies and the leaders call me and say, hey, that's the best. I've sent my women to 20 conferences this year, and yours is number one. That keeps me going.
That's huge because conferences are hard to do. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of people involved, a lot of it's not like it's hard to host conferences, in my opinion. So putting together the programming, everything else, it's amazing. And you also do webinars, am I right? So you do some webinars and you do some online connecting too. I feel like most people had to do that once we started getting into the pandemic. Is that still going on? You're still doing webinars and creating other opportunities?
Yes. So the webinar started during COVID when my customers, and I thought it was over during COVID. You're talking about 2008.
So I was just going to say, we go back to 2008 and now we're like, oh my God, all the business owners, I got to put it out there for them. The entrepreneurs out there, they know nobody saw that one coming.
Yeah, because I do live events. I have a publication where Barnes and Nobles is closed now.
Oh my gosh, stop. It hurts.
Marketing dollars are the first to go. Who's going to give me an ad? So during COVID, I thought it's over. And, I always
I'm laughing just so I don't cry, Sheila.
I always recommend I tell people I have an A plan, a B, a C, and a D plan. So I was like, it's time to kick the B plan in. And the B plan was, I'm surrounded by universities and become a college professor. And I thought for sure, if we survive this, if the world doesn't die, I'll just go out and get, because I'm still educating, I'm still doing what I love, and I'll be another demographic of a younger generation before they get to the workplace. And my phone started ringing off the hook. My customers, what's your contingency plan? And I'm like, I know what contingency means, Adam. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? I'm in shock that they are still finding value in this work during this time. And customers were saying to me, your audience needs you more than ever. And that message right there, I pulled in my network. I believe in creating a network, and I went out to find out what is one of the most innovative platforms that was out there for virtual learning. And I started hosting webinars just on getting psychologists, Harvard psychologists, to be on to tell women, how do we go from our bed to our computer? How are we going to make it? And it started, the webinar was called Moving Forward, that we've come so far, we can't afford to go one step backwards. So how do we continue to move forward in the midst of this? And I remember getting someone to do a workshop on visibility. Like we as women barely have a voice. We got to fight for our seat at the table, right in the corporate room. So we're now on Zoom cameras. How do we continue to have visibility? So I did workshops on creating visibility on Zoom, like anything. And so that started, and still to this day, free of charge, we give out Thriving Thursday webinars where we take a temperature check every month to make sure you're thriving in your career and you're just not surviving, whether it's self-care, ideas, solutions, and resources to do your job better. And you can find out more about these free events on diversitywoman.com, as well as our conferences and events. You can visit diversitywomannetwork.com and become a member of our e-learning portal. We actually now have a membership-based e-learning portal where you get free group coaching every month as a member of that. And so I've had to innovate over time. I eventually had to go that digital route. If you're interested, I started getting people from all over the country, the world, contacting me saying, is your magazine in this region yet? We've had people Zoom into our webinars from Asia, from Latin America, at times, and it's just unbelievable. So we now have the publication on diversitywoman.com. It'll say, click here to view our latest magazine free of charge for those who are wanting to get this information globally.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing story. It's one that I'm so happy to bring to my audience, and just to see the evolution of what you've done in media, how you continue to get to really be a leader in the space. and to build more ways to add value. I think it's inspirational. I think obviously you happen to be doing it in media. There's a lot of other people out there that have their way of giving back and following their mission. But that being said, I mentioned before, we're not going to talk about the book too much this time, but so everybody watching, but we will be bringing Sheila back onto the show when the book is live, and we're going to do a deep dive then. But for today, Sheila, you mentioned some websites, and I want to kind of revisit that. If people want to connect, if they want to learn more about your platforms, how do they do that?
Okay. Visit diversitywoman.com to see a free copy of our publication. Click here to view our most recent magazine and get ideas, solutions, and resources monthly to help you in your career. If you want to attend a live event, click on the event section and we'll share with you all our events. If you want to just follow us on social media and to get tidbits, and we send out e-blasts and announcements of what's going on, follow us on LinkedIn. We have a huge LinkedIn following. Our group is called Diversity Woman, Leadership and Executive Development. And we're also on Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. So follow us on social media and visit our website.
Amazing. And for everybody watching, we'll put that information in the show notes, so you can just click on the links and head right on over. And if you're a first-time viewer and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, this is your invitation. Hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss any of those episodes. And Sheila, again, thank you so much for coming on today. I look forward to continuing to work with you and continuing to build. So thank you again.
Adam, congratulations on your success at Mission Matters. It's, like I said, it's a pleasure and an honor. This has been so much fun. I look forward to the book, and I can't wait to reconnect with you again.